Hello, I'm Lara Kulcherson and this is Newsfeed, your dose of what people are talking about online.
We have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what they're doing.
Hardly the most statesman-like behavior, but a clear sign that Donald Trump had run out of patience with Israel and Iran, especially after they flagrantly ignored his proclamation of a ceasefire between the two. On Wednesday, the skies over Israel and Iran fell quiet for the first time in almost 2 weeks, and the fragile ceasefire appears to be holding, but it had a bit of a rocky start. Israel accused Iran of breaching the truce, claiming Tehran launched missiles and promised to respond with force, targeting key regime sites in the heart of the Iranian capital. Tehran denied the accusations, blaming what it calls a misunderstanding over the timing of the ceasefire's start. Iran says its strikes on Israeli positions happened just moments before the truce officially came into effect. President Trump announced the ceasefire, urging against violations in a Truth Social post on Tuesday. Shortly after, Israel confirmed it had accepted the proposal. Iran then indicated it would also hold fire if Israel did the same. Even as the ceasefire holds, for now, Donald Trump is stirring fresh controversy. He posted a video on his Truth Social platform showing clips of B-2 stealth bombers dropping payloads set to the 1980 parody song Bomb Iran by Vince Vance and the Valiants.
Bomb, bomb, Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, Iran. What country's got a feeling, really is the ceiling. Bomb, Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. Went to a mosque, gonna throw some rocks. Tell the Ayatollah, gonna put you in a box. Bomb, Iran. Bomb, 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 bomb.
Trump has never been one to play by the usual political rules, and it's rare to see the world's statesmen share private messages. But the president broke with convention again, posting a message of praise he received from NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. In it, Rutte congratulates Trump for what he called decisive action in Iran, and says all NATO allies should commit to spending at least 5% of their GDP on defense. Officials have confirmed the message was indeed sent on Tuesday, just as Trump was heading to The Hague for the NATO summit. The U.S.'s attack on Iranian nuclear facilities on Saturday did not sit well with many Americans. Trump faced a backlash from some of his closest allies for taking the U.S. into a conflict abroad. It flew in the face of many in his Make America Great Again support base. Shortly after American bunker-busting bombs fell, anti-war marchers took to the streets in the nation's biggest cities. And online, social media users mostly posted they don't want to be drawn into a conflict that's not theirs.
We are the only country that has ever dropped the atomic bomb. My point is, why on earth would Americans support a war that is going to kill tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Iranian citizens when they don't have the weaponry? And even if they did have the weaponry, that doesn't mean they would use it. I'm not promoting Iran having nuclear weapons, but do I think that justifies preemptively murdering tens of thousands of people? No, because the reality is we've been saying for 40 years they were going to have nuclear weapons that they have not had. And even if they did get them, as Russia has, as North Korea has, as Pakistan has, that doesn't mean they're going to use them. Because the reality is, we're the only country that has actually used nuclear weapons. The good guys, we're the only country who's done that. So how dare us or others just in case?
Online, people are calling out U.S. rhetoric on Iran, claiming Washington is using the Iraq playbook by just swapping the names of the two countries. From threads on X to TikTok breakdowns, users are dissecting the language used by officials and sounding the alarm.
Building up the case for war with Iran is the exact same playbook that happened in 2002 leading up to the Iraq War in 2003. Bush and Netanyahu went around telling everybody that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction, they had nukes, and they were just about to develop them and they were going to use it against US and its allies. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that the evidence is conclusively that was all a bunch of lies intentionally.
Raise your hand if you're old enough to remember that going to war with a Middle Eastern country on false pretenses to distract from a horrible, terrible, detrimental presidency is the Republican handbook.
Content creators are also dispelling false perceptions of Iranians. They want to break the myth of a scary-looking Muslim man and a deeply conservative, so-called oppressed and covered woman. The idea is to rubbish Western propaganda that Iranians need to be saved. And this creator is doing that by showing his audience what average Iranians do and how they look.
Video is now going viral of a man walking around Tehran, which is the capital of Iran, asking random people if they would go to coffee with him. And I honestly took screenshots of the people because I want us to pay attention to how people look and how they are dressed. Oh my God, a woman driving and her hair is out. Point is this, the propaganda isn't propaganding like it used to. Back in the day, we used to let the media and the government dictate to us a picture of what the people that they were targeting looked like. Allowed them to justify our attacks of them. Well, yes, we need to liberate the Middle East because women are being suppressed. Women wear all black, all their hair is covered, their entire body is covered. All you can see is potentially maybe their eyes, and even then you don't. Women can't drive, they're uneducated. The way that the world is interconnected nowadays with social media, can't do that shit anymore to us. We can see people for who they are and what they actually look like. Let's be clearer, once Americans start realizing that these people actually look white and not like the brown menace that all of these Middle Easterners look like, they gain another additional depth of humanity and protection.
He may be one of the richest men in the world, but Amazon and Blue Origin owner Jeff Bezos was brought down to earth this week with the power of protest. Bezos and his fiancée Lauren Sanchez were forced to change the original venue of their lavish wedding in Venice after protesters threatened to disrupt the event. The No Space for Bezos group has warned that they would fill the iconic Venetian canals with inflatable crocodiles to prevent celebrities from attending the nuptials. The event has now moved to a more secure location, still in Venice, but surrounded by fortified walls.
Imagine people protesting your wedding so you have to change wedding venues. Because that just happened to Jeff and Lauren. Locals in Venice were not happy to hear that Jeff and Lauren were going to have their 3-day wedding event in their city. To say they let it be known would be an understatement. They stated, if you can rent Venice for your wedding, you can pay more taxes. That's right. A nod to them both. No space for Bezos. Jeff has already hired former U.S. Marines as security for his event. It's said that the couple is having a meeting with local law enforcement to go over their new game plan. The Bezos having to change their wedding venue has been seen as a win from the locals, and they're very excited about it. Why do I have a feeling that they're going to televise their wedding like they're the royal family? In this economy, we do not want to see that. I wonder if Elon will send a wedding gift. We already know the Kardashians are going to be there, so do you think we're going to see any of this on their show? It's a 3-day event, so you know there's going to be some outlandish stuff going on. Maybe they'll take a rocket into space after saying their vows. I mean, when you're one of the most wealthy men in the world, anything is possible.
The protests against the wedding in the floating city are similar to over-tourism protests seen across southern Europe. Locals are increasingly frustrated with visitors who cause a shortage of housing and raise prices in some of the region's most Instagrammable hotspots. Again, this weekend protests were held in several cities. And travelers to places like Venice, the island of Mallorca, Barcelona and Lisbon were soaked by water guns by the locals. Another study is showing social media is overtaking traditional media houses as a go-to source for news. Traditional media appears to have given up a fraction of its audiences to newsfluencers on sites such as TikTok and YouTube.
Mainstream news outlets are having to modify their content to compete in the ever-changing digital space. But they're still struggling to retain subscribers to their websites and apps. This limits their influence and reach. Furthermore, there is a continual shift from traditional media to the social space. The voices of influencers are becoming louder, especially on weighty issues such as geopolitics, climate change, and conflicts. Politicians and companies are now using influencers. Such content creators are not bound by the ethics, guidelines, and rules that media houses adhere to. They can also avoid asking hard questions. In fact, paid influencers are often used to spread agenda-based narratives. It's not all doom and gloom for legacy media brands. podcasts offer a fairer playing field, with outlets such as The Economist, The New York Times and the BBC appearing on the likes of Spotify and YouTube. They're competing with influencers whose content often features their own personal point of view. Alternative sources of news often present a fresh take on current affairs. However, misinformation and disinformation are a threat to factual, evidence-based journalism. Facebook and TikTok are notorious for this, while WhatsApp and other messaging apps are more contained, with most discussions taking place within groups and close contacts.
Have you ever recommended a book because it had really got to you? That's the idea behind Bibliotherapy, using books to boost mental health. According to Psychology Today, it's a genuine therapeutic method, often used hand-in-hand with regular therapy. But unlike traditional therapists, bibliotherapists often prescribe fiction.
Connecting with a character in a novel or the author of a memoir can help readers feel less isolated. Relating to someone else's struggles, even if they're fictional, can have a powerful effect on the mental well-being. Recognizing that others have gone through similar experiences can often make those challenges feel more normal and ease the shame that one might carry. Reading allows people to safely process healing through someone else's journey. Seeing a fictional character navigate similar situations can help a person acknowledge their own emotions or traumas from a safe distance, often leading to a cathartic release. Books can offer new perspectives, helping readers understand their own behavior, recognize their emotions in a deeper way, and find coping strategies. Through books, readers often discover that they are not alone in their struggles, realizing that others, perhaps from entirely different backgrounds or cultures, have gone through similar experiences, can provide the necessary trigger to begin healing.
There are 3 domains of bibliotherapy. The first is receptive prescriptive bibliotherapy. So as bibliotherapists, when we talk about prescribing literature, that could look like your therapist recommending a piece of literature for you to read and then process together in the therapy session. The second domain is expressive creative bibliotherapy. So this is where therapists get really creative around encouraging clients to write. So this could look like journaling practice, for example, writing a letter to your inner child, writing a letter to your future self, employing the use of writing as a technique to deepen your healing practice and to get you to think deeply about some of the work that you're doing in therapy. And then lastly is symbolic ceremonial bibliotherapy. Sometimes this looks like reading a book that was a favorite of someone that you loved and lost.
Despite the US calling for a ceasefire and its attempts to defuse the crisis in the Middle East, social media users are known to take their own tone. Of course, there's also a tendency to overreact and exaggerate. So no surprise that the internet is flooded with videos on what to pack for World War III.
Emergency prepping will not help you if we experience nuclear fallout in World War III. I don't think we will. This is for floods, earthquakes, fires, things that temporarily displace you. Now, what will help you to prevent you from spiraling about nuclear fallout and the things that the algorithm make you panic about is developing an outlook on life that helps you grapple with the current crisis that people are experiencing while you are probably not experiencing one. Instead of devolving into conspiracy theories about the world, learn how the world really works. Yes, that means reading long-form text and things like that. I have an outlook on life that knows people will continue to spiral online, offline. That's why I take breaks from these things in order to have a healthy mind.
And that's our show. Find our latest stuff on YouTube and do subscribe to our channel. See you soon.